Hello guys, in this video we're going to talk about grains, legumes and nuts. Why? Because these groups are very similar to each other, so I grouped them together to view the differences and the similarities. Let's begin. Okay, so let's view this recap. We start with grains here. When hydrated, they are similar to animal products in terms of calories. Then nuts, recommended 25 grams a day. Why? Because they have very high amounts of fat. The more polyunsaturated nuts are the walnuts. Starch in grains is higher than in legumes. There is more starch in rice than there is in oats. The white flour is done without the outer layers, and we left off with the pericarp and the germ. That's refined. Bread and pasta difference is fermentation and hydration. Bread products can have high amounts of sugar and high amounts of fats. And soy is a legume with similar properties to nuts. No starch, high fat and high protein. Okay, so let's begin with grains. Classification, well, we have many grains, such as rice, oats, barley, rye, maize, wheat and buckwheat. The grains have the hull, the pericarp and the seed. The seed is formed by the endosperm and the germ. Then we have the pseudo cereals, which are the amaranth, the quinoa, the chia, the quinoa and the buckwheat. Consumption in Spain: bread 31 kilos per individual per year, pasta only 4, rice 3.8, pastries almost 6. Water 10 to 13%, this is water content when they are dry. Fats 2 to 3%, whereas in oats is 6%. The majority are unsaturated, and then we have phospholipids, the lecithin, and the unsaponifiables, such as the phytosterols and the vitamin E and provitamin A. The carbs are 65 to 85%, and they are mainly starch. The composition of starch is 25% amylose and 75% amylopectin. Fiber 2 to 16%. It varies a lot depending on the grain, and it's made by cellulose, hemicellulose, beta-glucans. These are the insoluble fiber, and inulin, which is soluble fiber. And we have to say also the resistant starch. Protein 8 to 12%. And it's coming from the endosperm and is very low quality. It has indeed a lysine deficiency, and in here they have the gluten. Gluten is indeed a protein. Vitamins: group B and vitamin E and provitamin A. As I said, on the unsaponifiable part, vitamin E, tocopherols, and provitamin A, carotenoids. Minerals, well, we have the potassium, the phosphorus, magnesium, calcium, sodium, iron, zinc, manganese, copper and selenium. The byproducts: the flour, the semolina, which is the flour but less fine, the bran, which is done with the outer layers, and the wet germ. Then the bread and the pasta and the baked goods can be grown with yeast, chemicals, air, or partially grown. Moving on, we have the legumes: the lentil, the chickpea, the lupin, the bean, the pea, the broad bean, the soya bean, and even peanuts and carob. They have two parts: the funicle and the testa. And the testa is made by the cotyledon, which contains the macros, and the radicle and plumule. This is indeed the germ that contains macros and micros. Legumes can be classified as high fat, and low starch, or the reverse, high starch and low fat. And the legumes are classified as well in extra, category 1 and category 2. 3.9 kilograms per individual per year, and the composition 8 to 12% of water, dry. This is very similar to the grains. Then we have the fat, 1.3%, and we have to mention that soy is 20% and chickpea is 5%. The main fat are triglycerides. They contain also phospholipids and unsaponifiable fats such as tocopherols, carotenoids, and phytosterols. Carbs 60 to 85%, 35 to 60% are starches, and less than 3% are sugars. And this is not applied to soy, of course. The fiber 10 to 25%, and the majority are cellulose, hemicellulose, and oligosaccharides. Protein 17 to 25, and the soy has 35. Methionine deficiency, and they have albumins and globulins and gluteins. Albumins and globulins are high quality proteins, and indeed the proteins here are better than in the grains. Vitamins from the group B, and vitamin E and provitamin A. As I said, tocopherols and carotenoids. Then we have potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, calcium, as well as iron, no hemo iron, of course, zinc, manganese, copper, and selenium, and unfortunately high amounts of anti-nutrients like the phytic acid. Byproducts, well, peeled legumes, legume purees, and legume flours. From the soy we have a bunch of them: soy oil, beverage, tofu, the flour, the proteins, isolate and concentrate, the sprouts, the sauce, the tempeh, and the miso. I have to mention these last three are fermented. And then we have the nuts. Fruits with less than 50% of water. That's the normal definition of nuts. And we have almond, walnuts, cashew, hazelnut, pistachios, and peanuts. Well, you know, peanuts are here only because we tend to eat them as nuts, but indeed they are not nuts. In reality, they are legumes. Then we have pine nuts, macadamia nuts, Brazil nuts, and sunflower seeds that are seeds, not nuts, but we tend to eat them as nuts. Consumption 3.8 kilograms per individual per year. Water less than 10% in most cases. Fats from 40 to 70%. The majority are unsaturated, and we have the phytosterols that are almost 25 milligrams, which is an interesting amount, and they have phospholipids as well. The carbs, well, it varies because some nuts have more than others, but as a general we can say from 5 to 22%, and the majority are sugars because starch is only 2 to 4%, whereas sugars 5 to 10. The fiber were 3 to 10%, and the protein 15 to 25. And they contain a lot of arginine, and arginine is a vasodilator and it lowers cardiovascular diseases. So that's why nuts are recommended for cardiovascular disease in small amounts, of course. Vitamins, they are high in vitamin E, tocopherols, and vitamin B9, folates. They have other vitamins as well, but these are the main ones. Minerals, the potassium, magnesium, calcium, and then copper and selenium. They have anti-nutrients as well. Peanuts are legumes but are consumed as nuts, and same for sunflower seeds, as I said. I have to mention that all these three contain anti-nutrients. That's it for the grains, legumes and nuts. I hope you understood it well. This is all I have to say about them. Like, subscribe if you're new, comment down below any doubts you have, download this diagram I will leave in the description, and share this video to friends and family to let them know. Thank you for watching, I see you on the next one.